So we discussed today the process involved after the applicant has the initial visit and what the expectations is, how the length of the assessment. We went into detail about what's involved in the assessment and the reasons why it's so involved and the reason why it takes between 4 to 6 months to complete and the reasons why we have to build that relationship up with the applicant. Because basically, in a nutshell, I need to make sure that the applicant can care for somebody else's child, both physically and emotionally.
This is the second Fostering Live Q&A that we are doing. So previously we did all about the inquiry process and the initial visit, and we covered quite a few questions that people asked there. So we thought that the natural next stage would be to cover the assessment process, and that is called the Form F assessment. So with me today, I am joined by Sharon Lee. She's one of our supervising social workers, but she's also a Form F assessor as well. And so absolutely full of wonderful knowledge when it comes to all things Form F assessment. And she's going to really break down this stage and just describe what actually happens during this stage and answer some questions that people might have. That can be done live, and I will also do some prompts as well so that we can cover quite a bit of information for you. So yeah, just to start us off, so what exactly is a Form F assessment, and also why is that so important and why is it an important part of the process?
So the Form F assessment is completed with a qualified social worker with the applicant or the applicants. So the Form F can be it is an in-depth process. I've been doing this job for about 19 years now, and I think I've only come across 1 or 2 people that have found the process quite intrusive. Most people get quite a lot out of the fostering process, and they come away with feeling it's very therapeutic. So if you're a couple, then the process, like I said, it takes about 4 to 6 months, and in that process, you'll probably have around 8 to 10 sessions with your assessor, and that gets broken down to, we need to know about your childhood, kind of like childhood education, and the reasons why we go right back to that in depth is because not everybody has had positive childhoods. You know, it's great if you have had a positive childhood, but not everybody has. And as an assessor, I have to make sure that you're able to cope, manage with talking about your family. I've had sessions in the past where there's been trauma for that applicant and they've not been able to address it.
So they haven't processed
No, they haven't processed it. Yeah. So the reason why we go back that far is that I need to make sure that emotionally you can care for that child. It might be the case that the trauma or what the child's experienced may be similar to what you've experienced, so it could re-trigger you. So my job is to make sure that you've addressed it, you've dealt with it. So that's why we go into it so deep as that. And I normally kind of say to people, I normally forewarn them that, like the next session we're going to be talking about your childhood and family, and I always want to make sure that they're going to be all right with that. And if they know it's going to be difficult, then I always kind of like advise them to have somebody with them afterwards, because I wouldn't want them to be left alone if it's really upsetting.
Is it always the same person that carries out that assessment?
Yeah.
Because I bet it can be quite, with it being so not intrusive, but talking about personal things, it's important to have that same person.
Yeah, definitely.
Because
you want applicants to be open and be comfortable, and that's part of the assessment, is to build that relationship up with the applicants.
Great. And could you touched on it slightly, but could you talk through what actually happens during the assessment? So kind of the different stages and what the applicants can actually expect from those meetings.
Okay. So stage 1 is really information gathering. So what we do is we need things like medicals, DBS, because obviously the medical is because we need to make sure that you are physically and emotionally able to care for somebody else's child. So that's why you have the medicals. DBS, the same, self-explanatory, and then we also ask for references. So work references, previous work references if you've had a job where you're working with children or adults. So that's what we ask for. Current work references. And we also ask if you've got your own children. We also request references from their schools as well. And as well as that, it's personal references. So we say around about 3, don't we? 2, 3 personal references. And then if you've got older children, whether they live at home with you still or they live away, then obviously we get to have their references as well. We need to speak to them.
And also, as if you have a adult child living in the home, they will also have to have a DBS check as well. And also they need to give permission for you to be a foster carer, really, that they're along on the journey with you also. So do you visit the applicants each time, or can it be done? Not necessarily.
Since COVID, we've all changed. We've all worked very differently. There's certain sessions that you can do over Teams or WhatsApp, but the sessions when you need to speak about childhood, relationships, anything that is really sensitive, you need to do that face to face. You get more from the applicant if it's face to face. By then, I've built up a little bit of a rapport with the applicants by then.
Yeah, no, great. So like we've touched on, a lot of people say that the assessment can feel quite personal, with questions about the background, family, past experiences. So just why is that so important to have that information as part of the Form F?
So again, like what I kind of previously mentioned, is just to make sure that you can care for somebody else's child, both physically and emotionally. And if there's anything in your past, your childhood or previous relationships, that you've addressed it and you feel you're going to feel mentally able to care for another child. And it's, we get a lot of applicants that have had difficult childhoods or difficult previous relationships. So it's, like I said, it's really important that you cover all of that with them. We get a lot of applicants, well, not a lot, but we get applicants where they're worried because they're on some form of medication, like antidepressant, depressant. I've had applicants in the past where they dealt with things in their childhood or their previous relationships, and then they're taking medication for it, for example, or they've been for counselling. And I always look at it that is a positive, that you've dealt with it. You've not just, I'd be more concerned if you'd said, well, yeah, I had trauma from such and such, but no, I've never dealt with it. I've never been to the doctor. I've never had counselling. That would be more concerning. But if you've actually gone and, helped yourself, then that is a real positive.
Showing emotional resilience, and
that's what
thing, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we're for.
We've just had a comment. So many people are uncomfortable with contact and from ex-partners. Yeah, this is a big one. So what does that part?
Yeah, so I was going to also touch on that. So ex-partner references, applicants are always kind of a bit wary about that. And I always try and reassure them that I'm not interested in your relationship. I'm not interested in the ins and outs. All I'm interested in is whether you feel that your ex-partner, the applicant, was a good parent, for example, to your children. So if you'd had children together, what was he or she like as a parent? Do you feel that they'll be able to go on and successfully care for somebody else's child? That's what I'm interested in. I'm not interested in who done what, who said well, and what happened. That's all that I'm interested in. Sometimes I have applicants where the ex-partner, there's been domestic violence, abuse, all that kind of thing. And they might have had to have an order on them, just like a court order to stay away, that kind of thing. I know. So we had that. And I always say to applicants that I won't I won't say. So yeah, but most of the cases, if we can get hold of the ex-partner, then we will. And then there's other ways that we can verify your previous relationship, and that can be by friends and family. It could be from your adult children. Okay, so I don't want people worrying about that. So
yeah. And so how honest should applicants be about challenges that they have faced in the past? Because I know that it can be quite tricky to talk about things, especially if it's police related things. You might think that you might be looked down upon or anything like that. Why is it important to talk about those challenges and how that could actually, the experiences that they've been through could actually be a positive in what they've dealt with.
Yeah. So it's really important to be open and transparent and, and honest right from the start, even from if you're phoning up progress and inquiring about fostering, it's better to be open and transparent from the start. I've assessed applicants in the past that, were in prison, served a short period in prison, but it wasn't child, related. And it was kind of like over 20 years ago. But he was open and honest and upfront from the start because he wasn't sure whether it would be honest on the DBS or not. So we were able to then have a session and talk about that and, talk about it and unpick it. And, he went on and got approved at foster panel. And as far as I'm aware, they're amazing foster carers.
That's brilliant. And so what particular qualities are you looking for as an assessor?
Sense of humour. You've got to have a sense of humour. You've got to have broad shoulders. Sense of humour. You've got to have broad shoulders. You've got to understand that most children are not going to thank you for caring for them, especially initially. Most children aren't going to want to come and live with you. It doesn't matter what the child's parents have done or put them through, they're still their parents at the end of the day. So they're never going to thank you, never going to appreciate it. They might eventually, but
I think quite a lot of the time we've had children that have moved on to adults and gone to university and that sort of thing. And I know recently some of our carers, they've had a young adult visit them to say thank you and to also to say sorry for some of the things that they had actually put those carers through. It's about reflection. And I always think that if a young adult that has moved on is able to reflect on the experience, then, and you've been able to help them reflect on that experience, then that is...
In those circumstances, I always say to foster carers, they will thank you and they will appreciate it one day. And you would have, made a difference at some point for however long they are in your care. You will make a difference to their lives.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about family involvement. So how involved are the applicants' family members during the assessment stage? Do you speak to the birth children, mums, dads, parents, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so obviously children that are still, young, are still living at the home, then I'll have separate sessions with them during the Form F assessment. If they're really young, there's lots of books out there to discuss, to help your young child understand what is fostering, what does that mean, what does that look like. And so if they're very young, I'll go through that with them, and then I'll leave the book with the applicants so then they can then continue talking about it and going through it. So they're involved. We have to have like at least one section. I also sometimes like to get them involved by, when we come to so you've got to do a family tree, part of the assessment, and that could be some homework that I give you, like a family tree. And sometimes I've had sort of like the younger children get involved in drawing that family tree, and they really enjoy that. And then it's a good way of getting them involved in the process as well, if they're much younger. But so carers with progress are expected to have backup carers. So that could be friends or family. So I also have to go out and meet with them and go through like a small assessment with them. And again, they have to be DBS checked. Yeah, just go through that with them. So it could be family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins that might be part of the applicant's support network. So they're involved. Like I said, previously mentioned, it's like we have at least 3 references, personal references. So we have kind of like a meeting with them, either go out or we do it over Teams and go through that with them. So
great. And what if one partner was unsure about fostering, that you had one partner that really wanted to be a primary carer, wanted to be the main carer, but the other one was a little bit unsure? Is that something that comes up often?
Yeah, sometimes that will come up, and I think that's just about unpicking it with them. Because if you're a couple, you'll have the 4MEF sessions, you'll have 2 or 3 separately, and then you'll have some together. And then obviously with any other family members, you have them separately as well, like children or older children that's still living at home. So I would unpick that with him or her. I would unpick the reasons why. It might just be because they don't understand what fostering entails, and that they just need a bit more information. Because during the fostering assessment process, it's compulsory that applicants come along to our Skills to Foster preparation group, and it's usually held over 2 days, and that's where applicants will get more information about fostering and what fostering entails. So it could be that after they've been to that, the other applicant might then be a bit more reassured. But obviously you both need to be on board with it, and you both need to go through the process, because you both will be approved as foster carers at foster panel. So you both need to want to do it.
And can people still work full time whilst going through the 4MEF process?
Yeah. Part of the process when I'm assessing people is to see how flexible they are. I'm very flexible, I'll work around you. So I'll come out and have our sessions either in the afternoon, morning, afternoon or evenings, sometimes on a Saturday. Just depends on what the applicant's availability is. So yeah, I can be flexible, but part of the 4MEF assessment process is just to see just how flexible you are, because when you're doing the fostering, there is a certain level of expectation of being flexible.
Your adaptability and ability.
Yeah.
So once the 4MEF is complete, we're all done, what happens next?
So obviously what I like to do is I like to do the last session with you after you've been sent the 4MEF, just so we've got time to go through everything to make sure that you're happy with what I've written. And then it also gives us time to add or amend anything. Then it will go to my manager to read through. And then if she's happy with that, it will then go to our foster panel members ahead of foster panel. And that's usually around 2 weeks before foster panel. So then that gives the foster panel time to read through your 4MEF. And they might then come back to me and go, well, you need X or you need to Y further information. Again, that allows us time to make any changes if need be. And then you'll be given a day and a time slot. Again, we're flexible. We will do everything in our power to work around you. We'll obviously work around your childcare commitments if you have any, or work commitments. And then foster panel is now done on Teams, so you don't have to come to the office, That's on Teams. And then the process is that there'll be around about 6 to 8 people, panel members, and you've got the panel chair. And the application assessing social worker will be there as well to support you. So you won't be there on your own. The progress panel is really lovely. They're really friendly. They've got a really good way of putting applicants at ease. So we kind of put you at ease and have a conversation. And then what will hopefully happen, I always say to applicants, if you've got to that stage, 99.9% sure you will get approved, but you don't get approved at foster panel. They can only make a recommendation. So I can make the recommendation as the assessing social worker. It goes to my manager. She can make the recommendation. Paperwork goes to panel, and then they make the recommendation subject to the agency decision maker. So the agency decision maker is the head of
Children's
Head of
Services.
Children's Services in progress. They're allowed up to 2 weeks. So it could be that you wait for 2 weeks because the paperwork has to go to her. I can say it's her because it's her. It will go to her and then she'll make that final recommendation. Then she'll sign it off and then hopefully you'll be approved.
So that's pretty much the assessment process right up to panel. So I suppose, I mean, we want to say throughout that there is further support. We can get you in touch with other foster carers that are going through the process. We can set you up with a mentor. So if there's a specific type of fostering that you're actually looking at going into, we can set you up with a foster household that is already doing that specific type of fostering to again guide you through the process and give you advice. But yeah, thank you so much, Sharon. Okay. That has been really, really helpful, and I hope you guys also find that really helpful as well. So if you are thinking about fostering but you're not sure what the next step is, you can get in touch with us through our website. You can drop us a message here on Facebook. You can even give us a call. But don't forget, you will be able to re-watch this session at another time as well. But also, if you could share it with anybody else on your social media platforms, that would be fantastic. And you can join us for our next Fostering Live event, which will take place in December. And I think next time, the next natural thing to talk about would be the matching process. So welcoming your first child into a home, what that will look like, and that whole, So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.
And we shall see you very soon.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.